Hey y'all, welcome to the Max Life. And today we have some things that we're gonna get done in the kitchen. If you are a new subscriber, welcome to the channel. If you have been with us since our very first original channel, The Max, thank you for sticking with us. Today, I'm gonna be spending a little bit of time in the kitchen. I'm gonna kick things off and show you what I have going on right now. Some of my everyday chores that I have to do. Making kombucha is one of those. When we run out, I make more kombucha. So today is one of those days I have just kind of set this time aside in the day where I have made green tea. I use organic green tea. I make it like I would regular tea, put it over in my SCOBY, which I'm about to show y'all because I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do with the leftovers. After I do that, I pour the now fermented tea after it has sat for days over into my jars. I do flavor mine with pineapple juice. After I do that, I put airtight lids on, place them over on a counter or a shelf. I usually do 24 hours because if you get more than that, the amount of pressure that builds up in these things cause it to be so carbonated you can almost not get the tops off without making a really big mess. So about 24 hours on the second ferment for us. If y'all are interested in kombucha, I already have videos on how to start kombucha from a jar of unflavored kombucha that you can get. There are many Whole Foods stores that have those. All you have to do is follow those directions, and before you know it, you will have a SCOBY of your own. Once you have a SCOBY, you can begin making your own kombucha. It's something that we drink daily in our house. My kids absolutely love it. But I want to show y'all my SCOBY and how big it has already gotten, and I'm going to take off of this. Now my hands are clean. I just washed my hands. I'm gonna take off of this SCOBY right here. It stands for Symbiotic Culture of Bacteria and Yeast. That's what SCOBY stands for. You do have to have this as like a starter for your kombucha. So now I have two. You can see that mine has grown from the couple of weeks ago. I don't like mine to get too thick because I can't make it fast enough. The more SCOBY you have, the faster it's going to consume the sugar in your jar, and that means the faster you have to make kombucha, or the more fermented and tart it will get. And we do like ours to be good and fermented and like it to be tart. It sits for about 5 to 6 days. But if it starts getting much more than that, it's too strong for myself and it's too strong for the kids. So I'm splitting the SCOBY off. I'm gonna drop it right back down in my jar over here. And this scraps, the chickens absolutely love it. It's gut healthy for them as well. So I'm gonna be sharing with the chickens and making my kombucha real quick so I can get it over on my shelf to ferment. Once I use my fermented tea, now fermented tea from where my SCOBY has been, I already have tea made that will just go right back over in here. It's very similar to sourdough. You get sourdough, you use it, you have to refeed it. This is pretty much the same thing. Once you have your SCOBY, you will pull off of that, but you also have to refeed it. But it's a very simple concept, very easy to do. If y'all are interested in those videos, y'all check out my links. I have videos on how to start your SCOBY, what you need to do to get your very own SCOBY. If you can find somebody in your area that is already making kombucha, then you're just weeks ahead. They will share with you if you can get with them, and they can give you a piece of their SCOBY. It just saves you a couple of weeks from your SCOBY having to grow. You can jump right on into making the kombucha. But if you can't find anybody, it's really easy to do. All you have to do is follow those instructions on that video. And if you want to learn how to flavor your kombucha for a second ferment to let it get that good carbonation, y'all check out that video as well. My kids love to open the bottles and get that fizz, so they almost won't drink it unless I do the second ferment. And we love pineapple juice in ours. There's lots of different flavors, combinations of flavors that people use. But if you want to learn how to do that, y'all check out those videos. Lots of probiotics and gut benefits from drinking kombucha. move that fast, that would be something. Seriously, the videos that I mentioned earlier, the only other thing that I want to share about those, I don't currently sterilize my jars by boiling them like I used to. Soap and water does just fine. I've been making kombucha for years now. Soap and water is sufficient, just as long as your jars are good and clean. I also want to mention, when people think about kombucha, they get the idea of sweet tea. You cannot compare this to sweet tea, okay? I want to say, if you're going to try kombucha for the first time, you need to be thinking more along the lines of taste-wise of punch. That's closer to kind of what kombucha tastes like. Cannot compare it to tea. You cannot, most definitely cannot compare it to sweet tea, but it is really good, especially when you start adding the different flavors and the flavor blends. You can make it really exciting. My kids always ask me, Mom, is the kombucha ready? Because they know that we ran out and they're ready for more kombucha. So there you have it. I've done all my kombucha. The extra SCOBY that I told y'all was going out to the chickens. It's just as beneficial for them as it is us, so absolutely nothing goes to waste. I have shared my SCOBY with lots of people in our local community. So there you have it. We're done with the kombucha and we're off to the next thing. What you want?
Kombucha, Mama.
You want kombucha, Mama? Okay, y'all. The next thing that I needed to get done in the kitchen today was making some more condensed milk. Now, I love to use homemade condensed milk in baking. I use it for creamer and we use it for homemade ice cream. Break down a couple of things real quick. Why first would we make our own condensed milk when you can just buy it from the store? My number one reason is I want you to check out a can that I had in my pantry. This is Great Value Sweetened Condensed Milk, but this is what I want you to pay attention to right here. If you can't see that, maybe my editor can pop up a link on the screen, a picture. It says, contains a bioengineered food ingredient. That just doesn't really set over very well with me. So when I noticed that on this can, I'm not gonna chunk it, even though I really want to. I'm not gonna chunk it for emergency purposes. I'm gonna put it back up in the back of the cabinet, but that doesn't really sit well with me. So I started playing with making condensed milk. Now I have learned quite a few things. There are different ways to make it. This is the way that I have found best. Not only is it frugal, not only do we already have our own milk in the refrigerator, this can be done with store-bought milk, although I have never done it with store-bought milk. I have always made it with our raw milk from the refrigerator. But there are a couple of things I want to share with y'all right now that's going to be how-tos, and this is one of them. So I'm going to give you my recipe. I'm going to run you down real quick of what to do. Here's another really great thing about making your own. Not only are you knocking out the junk, you know what's in there. 2, it's very frugal. And 3, it's very easy to do. My recipe calls for 3 cups of milk to 1 cup of sugar. We do not use white sugar here. I use organic raw cane sugar, but I also doubled my recipe because I have such a big family, and you're gonna condense this down, which means you're gonna be left with less than what you started with. So I did 6 cups of raw milk to 2 cups of sugar. Now I have already preheated my milk, and I have 2 cups of now this is like a brown or a tan tinge, so you're gonna see that my condensed milk turns out just a little bit darker than what you would find at the store. But my milk is already warmed. I've just put it over in my crock pot. I put it on high for about 30 minutes. Depending on your crock pot and your area, the temperature of your room, that may vary. I just got mine warm enough to where I know it will melt my sugar. So I'm gonna pour my 2 cups of sugar over in there and get that stirred in and melted. Once I have this completely dissolved, the only other thing I need to do, I'm gonna put my lid on the crock pot with a slight crack in it. I'm gonna put it on low and plug it back up on the other side of my cabinet where I usually leave my crock pot. So once I get that done, I literally do nothing else. I will stir occasionally from time to time while I'm in the kitchen. I will come in and just do what I'm doing now, just stir it and move it around. After 24 hours, I'm gonna check it and see how thick my mixture is. If it's not as thick as I want it to be, I'm gonna leave it alone. Now, I have taken mine up at different times. Sometimes it has been not quite as thick as I wanted it to, but because of the different times or whatever, I have had to just go ahead and take it up, which is okay, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. In baking, I like for mine to be a little bit thicker, so if at all possible and I have the time, then I am going to let this cook out a little bit more. You're gonna notice as you're cooking, when you go and check on it periodically, that your line is gonna get lower and lower. That's condensing your milk. So sugar and milk, I used 6 cups of raw milk to 3 cups of organic raw sugar cane. I'm going to put my top back on with a little crack in it. I will plug this back up, put it on low, stir it occasionally when I'm in the kitchen, check it again in 24 hours. So that, my friends, is how you make condensed milk, and you really, really cannot get much easier than that. Here is a batch of condensed milk that I did a couple of weeks ago, and it has been in the refrigerator. You can see that's about a medium consistency. It took me about 30 hours to get this. What I do with the batches that may not be as thick as this, because I do like to use my thicker condensed milk when I'm baking, or if I'm making ice cream. Ice cream's not really picky, so I can use the ones that maybe not be as thick. Creamer. So we make our own creamer. If you look at the back of a label for creamer and coffee, there is so many things you cannot even pronounce. So I've learned to make my own creamer, which again, here's a quick how-to for you. You're gonna take creamer. I usually will use my whole half gallon. I use this cap, but if I had to guesstimate, I would say a teaspoon of vanilla. This is my homemade vanilla. A half pint of condensed milk, and a blender. I take my milk, I put my condensed milk, vanilla in my jar, blend it really well for about a minute or two, and now you have creamer without all of the junk. Another really cool thing that you can do with your condensed milk, so I made this condensed milk and I wanted to can it to put it on the shelf like you would buy from the store, the little jar that y'all just saw. And so I put it in my canner. I've been in my canner for 10 minutes. As soon as it got to 10 pounds, I turned it off, and it come out as beautiful caramel. So this is something else that you can do. I had just done this a couple of weeks ago, and it's absolutely beautiful. We haven't tasted it yet, but I know it will be delicious because the condensed milk is delicious. But I'm still working on learning how to can condensed milk without it turning into caramel. So if you know how to do that, or can find a YouTube video somewhere else, y'all please share that with me. But something as simple as taking milk, making your own ingredients in your home, not only is it cost effective, but you know what you're putting in your body as well. And it is super, super easy to make condensed milk and to make creamer. Happy homesteading, y'all. And I don't know what to do. Don't know what to do. I don't like this camera. Subscribe. No. This is so hard for me. I'm going outside and recording like you go outside and record, and don't have them ding-a-ling kids.